And a fight is going on in the end zone. And Cam Newton has run all the way in there with the entire offense and defensive teams.
By the time Steve Smith retired, he was top 8 all-time in receiving yards. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, and in 2005 even won the prestigious Triple Crown. But while most NFL wide receivers are divas, Steve Smith Sr. was a 5'9" bulldog who'd fight anyone.
Last Sunday night, here's Smith, survives the hit and has a touchdown.
In a world of 250-pound linebackers and 6'3" cornerbacks, he didn't just survive the league.
You can tell me I'm sorry. You can tell me I'm slow. You can tell me I can't run. You can tell me I ain't gonna do nothing. But I wear these shirts.
He broke it. From a college kid working at Taco Bell to a 16-year NFL legend who told corners to ice up, son.
What happened between you and Talib on the field early in the game?
I don't know. You gonna ask him because he didn't finish the game. Ice up, son. Ice up.
This is the toughest wide receiver in NFL history.
Steve Smith with coverage there. He went up and got it.
Los Angeles, California is known as the City of Stars, but for a young Steve Smith, the lights weren't shining on him. He attended University High School, becoming a letterman in football and track and field. But unlike his professional career, Smith began high school as a running back and defensive back. He was so good that he was an All-Metro League selection and an All-California Interscholastic Federation selection. While other stars were getting offers from Alabama, USC, and Notre Dame, Smith was getting silence. So finally, he landed at Santa Monica College. But being a defensive back didn't allow him to shine. He was beaten deep in an all-star game, prompting coaches to use his secure hands to their advantage, and moving him to wide receiver, still filling out his running back but keeping him on the offense. Yet his personal life was still a struggle off the pitch. While his peers were getting television time on Saturdays, Steve had to find a way to keep up and make ends meet. What many people don't know is that even though he was playing on Saturdays and training during the week, at night Smith was serving burritos at Taco Bell, wondering if his 5'9" frame was ever going to allow him to play big football. But it was those who witnessed his games in college who first noticed something happening on the field. He wasn't just athletic and fast, he was aggressive, even violent at times. He ran routes like he was insulted that the defensive back dared to cover him. Every snap was personal, like he had a point to prove. At the same time, he was teaming up with future NFL star Chad Johnson. And thanks to Santa Monica coach Robert Taylor, Smith would view football differently. He never celebrated after scoring, he always just did his job. This caught the attention of the University of Utah. So after 2 years at Santa Monica, he transferred to the Utes. But even they weren't really sure what they had. He wore number 7. He played special teams. And occasionally he got to catch a few passes and return kicks. He was basically doing the dirty work. His most standout performance would come in his senior year against San Diego State, scoring 2 touchdowns for 143 yards on just 2 receptions. He was no longer a special teams player, no longer filling out at running back. And when the stats finally came out, he averaged a massive 20.6 yards per catch. By the time he finished at Utah, he had 78 receptions for over 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns. You can add another 1,300 yards returning kicks and 4 more touchdowns on special teams. Steve Smith Sr. was a stick of dynamite waiting for a spark. Yet, when the 2001 NFL Draft rolled around, the doubts returned. The experts loved their measuring tapes, saying he's too short, he's just a return guy. He can't play receiver in the NFL, the corners are too big. It was the same old story. They measure the physical attributes but forget the one thing that matters, his heart. So in the 3rd round, pick 74, the Carolina Panthers took a flyer.
We look at the last pick. Steve Smith, another Ute, running Ute, going to Carolina.
They didn't draft him to be a star receiver. They drafted him to return punts. The Panthers thought they were getting a role player. They had no idea what was coming. Week 1, 2001, Carolina Panthers versus the Minnesota Vikings. Steve Smith was standing by for his first ever NFL play. He catches the ball and the defense parts like the Red Sea. 93-yard touchdown. While most rookies are tense, terrified of this moment, Smith caught it at the 7-yard line, saw a crease, and hit the gas. He broke the line and accelerated. On the very first play, he touched the ball. He scored. But while Smith knew what was coming, this should have been a warning to the rest of the league. Unfortunately, his first 2 seasons still saw him primarily as a special teams ace. Yet he made the Pro Bowl as a returner. But Steve wanted more. He knew he was better than some of the other guys. He just needed the league to stop looking at his size and start looking at his game. By 2002, he got his break, starting as a wide receiver. Smith accumulated 872 yards from 54 receptions and 3 touchdowns. But the moment that stunned the world came in 2003. It was the season that changed everything. The Panthers had a new QB, not a first-round pick or a superstar, but a ragtag backup from New Orleans, a man named Jake Delhomme.
I think the thing that did stick out on you is the ability that he had to make plays.
In fact, the 2003 Panthers were a team of cast-offs, and their leader was a little guy in the number 89 jersey. But that little guy had a point to prove. And over the course of the season, he'd catch 88 passes, rack up 1,110 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And Carolina was sneaking game after game. They were called the Cardiac Cats, winning close game after close game, riding an emotional wave all the way to the playoffs. Then came the true moment of his early career in the divisional round against St. Louis. Double overtime. St. Louis had just tied the game late to force extra time. The fans were deafening, and by the second overtime, it was 3rd and 14 from the Panthers' own 31-yard line. The play was called X-Clown. Smith wasn't the biggest guy on the field, but in that single moment, he was the only one that mattered. Delhomme dropped back, under pressure. He stared downfield and fired a strike. Smith hit it in stride at the 50, and everyone knew that was it. The Panthers were going to the conference championship.
Steve Smith is going to go all the way. No flags down. Smith scores.
And they'd ride that momentum all over the Eagles, coming face-to-face with Tom Brady and the Patriots in Super Bowl 38. But even Bill Belichick couldn't contain the 5'9" kid from LA. And even though Carolina lost thanks to a heartbreaking field goal, Smith caught 4 passes for 88 yards and a touchdown. That was the single moment everyone began taking note. Unfortunately, the NFL is a cruel sport, and while his star was finally shining, tragedy struck in 2004. He broke his leg in the opener against Green Bay, practically missing the entire year. And once again, we heard the rumors. He's too small to stay healthy. He relies on speed. He won't be the same after a leg break. He was a one-year wonder. Steve Smith sat at home watching his team struggle, listening to the critics writing his obituary. He didn't say much. He just rehabbed. He lifted. He plotted. And he prepared to unleash hell. What would come next not only shocked critics, but tore up every opinion piece. 2005, the Revenge Tour. If you want to understand what it takes to be a dominant wide receiver, check out Steve Smith's 2005 season. He didn't just come back, he went nuclear. The Panthers offense basically had one plan: get the ball to 89, and everyone knew it. The defensive coordinators planned for it. The fans were ready. Everyone thought that someone was going to blow him out of his cleats, but they still couldn't stop him.
Under pressure, Delhomme. Caught by Steve Smith. Down inside the 10-yard line.
Smith tore through secondaries with a savagery that was terrifying to watch. 201 yards against the Vikings, 14 catches against the Falcons. He was playing angry, and every catch ended with a spin, a stiff arm, or flex. Even worse was how he was cooking corners and safeties, talking trash that almost led to fights. Steve Smith was unguardable, and by the end of the season it showed. 103 receptions, 1,563 yards, 12 touchdowns. He was leading the league in all 3 categories, becoming only the 3rd to do so after Jerry Rice and Sterling Sharp. He took the Triple Crown. But don't forget, he was 5'9". He was coming off a broken leg, and before the playoffs, he was already the best receiver in football. But Smith wasn't done, and in the wild card, he burned down the Giants Stadium. 10 catches, 84 yards, and even a rushing touchdown. Then came the divisional playoff, Chicago. They had the best defense in the league. They had Brian Urlacher, Charles Tillman, but Smith dismantled them. 12 catches, 218 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Just to put this into perspective, the rest of the Panthers team had a combined 100 yards receiving. Smith strapped Carolina on his back and carried them, getting 70% of all their receiving yards. He basically spun Tillman like a top and outran the rest of the defense. But they'd fall short a week later to Seattle, and this opens up a dark chapter. After the highs of 2005, the Panthers entered a dark roller coaster era. The Loam's elbow fell apart, the QB play deteriorated, and the Panthers simply imploded. In the 2008 playoffs, the Loam threw 5 interceptions against the Cardinals. Yet Smith continued to be elite. However, behind the scenes, frustration was mounting. Smith felt like a car stuck in traffic, and he had no one reliable to feed him the ball. And this is when his temper got out of hand. Smith was known as a fighter, but not just against the other team. In training camp, he broke a teammate's nose during a film session dispute. He got into a scrap with cornerback Ken Lucas. And soon, the media began calling him a loose cannon. Yet through it all, his teammates loved him. They knew when Sundays came, nobody fought harder for them. He was the guy who would crack back block a linebacker 50 pounds heavier. A man who played through injuries that would hospitalize normal men. Like that game against the Giants, scoring a touchdown after breaking his arm. He was the little guy but played like a heavyweight boxer. He developed a celebration, the rowboat. It was disrespectful, it was arrogant, it was perfect. But the Panthers sucked, and in 2011 they hit the reset button. The Panthers didn't just draft a new QB, they drafted a freak of nature in Cam Newton.
With the first pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Cam Newton, quarterback, Auburn.
And suddenly, 89 became a partner in crime. Cam was big, loud, and flashy. Steve was small, loud, and nasty. It was a match made in heaven. Critics thought he was getting old. He was 32, and at his age, speed receivers are usually done. But Cam revitalized him. Smith put up almost 1,400 yards in Newton's rookie season. He was back. Even more, he became a mentor. Almost like an old lion teaching a cub to hunt. The two were electric. But the most defining moment of the 2013 season wasn't the stat sheet. It was a Monday night football game against the Patriots. Aqib Talib was one of the best in the NFL. He was big, physical, and just like Smith, he was a trash talker. When the two met up, they went to war. Grappling, shoving, and holding on almost every play. But while Talib got angry, Smith enjoyed the physicality. He got the better of Talib, catching 4 passes for 62 yards. Then, after the game, came the real smackdown. One of the coldest lines in all of football. Ice up, son.
What happened between you and Talib on the field early in the game?
I don't know. You go ask him because he didn't finish the game. Ice up, son. Ice up.
It became a catchphrase. T-shirts were printed, and it was the ultimate mic drop. It signified everything Steve Smith was about. It was one of the worst insults a player could ever get. Yet loyalty would be a two-way street, and after 2013, Panthers GM Dave Gettleman made a decision that shook the franchise. The organization felt he was too old, a distraction for developing young receivers. So unceremoniously, the Carolina Panthers cut the greatest player in their history. Smith didn't take it well. He felt betrayed. He had given his blood, sweat, and tears to that city for 13 years. And when he walked out the door, he issued a warning. He wasn't threatening violence. He was promising a massacre on the scoreboard. Smith signed with the Baltimore Ravens, a move that made perfect sense. The Ravens were a team built on toughness.
Against the Ravens, first quarter, Roethlisberger in trouble, sacked by Bill Courtney Upshaw.
I agree with prime time.
Defense and attitude.
He was just freelancing, right? That wasn't a design.
Right, that drive would lead
Big
to
Ben at his best.
a field
This was
goal.
a design run right here, though. Now watch this. Look, you don't win that battle.
He changed his nameplate. For years, it just said Smith. Now in Baltimore, it said SR, Smith Sr., the old man, the veteran, the guy you shouldn't have messed with. Week 4, Ravens versus the Panthers. Smith spent the entire week quiet, focused. But when the whistle blew, he unleashed 13 years of pent-up rage on his old team. He caught a touchdown from a tipped pass. He caught another touchdown. He finished the game with 7 catches, 139 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Smith Sr. decimated the Panthers. On one play, he caught a ball, stiff-armed a defender into the dirt, and looked toward the Panthers' sideline. He wasn't just beating them, he was embarrassing them. Age 35, he posted another 1,000-yard season, defying biology and changing logic. 2015 was supposed to be the end. He announced it would be his final season. He was playing well, on pace for another 1,000 yards. And then against the San Diego Chargers, he went down. Achilles tear. It should have been a career ender, but Smith wanted to finish on his own terms. He went one more. By 2016, critics were really getting stuck into him. They said he'd be slow. He'd be a shell of his former self. But Smith wasn't done. 8 catches, 87 yards against the Jags. 8 catches for 111 against Oakland. He moved into the top 10 all-time in receiving yards, passing legends like Marvin Harrison and Tim Brown. He also reached 1,000 career receptions. At 37 years old, he was playing like a youngster and winning. And on New Year's Day 2017, he stepped off the field in his final game against the Cincinnati Bengals. No massive stat line, but he walked out on his own feet. No cart, no injury, just a man who emptied the tank. He wrote a retirement letter to Commissioner Roger Goodell.
Dear Commissioner Goodell, this is to notify you that as of today, I, Steve Smith Sr., will no longer be antagonizing defensive backs. I am retiring from the National Football League.
So, what legacy did he leave? Steve Smith Sr. was just 5'9". He had a full career. By the time he retired, he had 14,731 receiving yards. That's 8th all-time. He had 81 career receiving touchdowns, 5 Pro Bowls, 2 first-team All-Pros, and a Triple Crown. That's the cold, hard numbers, but his real legacy is something you can't measure. It's the fear he gave defensive coordinators, the sleepless nights he gave corners, and the hope he gave a franchise. It was the entertainment on the field. Julio Jones was a thoroughbred. Randy Moss was an alien. But Steve Smith Sr. was the guy you'd want in the trenches. Size didn't matter and toughness was mandatory. He wasn't supposed to be a number 1 receiver. Even more, he wasn't supposed to last 16 seasons as the speed guy. But he did it all. He was the rule of 89. If he's on the field, he's open. And if he's not open, he's going to catch it anyway. And then he's going to let you know about it. He never asked for flags. He just wanted a fight. And usually he won. From the drive-thru at Taco Bell to the steps of Canton. He's the toughest pound-for-pound player ever to lace up a pair of cleats. But now there's a new crop of legends. If you enjoyed this story, stick around for more Prime Time. And check out some of our other content right here. As always, see you in the next one.